ശാന്തി തിരുമണം കല്യാണം.
Marriage, shadi, tirumanam kalyanam. Marriage, shadi, tirumanam kalyanam. Marriage, shadi, tirumanam kalyanam. Marriage, shadi, tirumanam kalyanam.
All right, welcome. Oh, wow. Welcome to the Stadium Lights. That has come on. But welcome to this podcast to our viewers on preparing for marriage. And this is by Streams of Water. Like, subscribe, yeah, please, yeah. What do you do with this? Please, yeah.
How many hours we are talking? Come on.
I'm sure they already subscribed when they watched the previous episodes.
But there are some people who don't like to subscribe, you know. Anyways, you ask your friends to subscribe now. All right. So so we did a couple of talkings about preparing for marriage, and we'll still go into it. It's very interesting. So you see the set, right? And we've been doing this for a few hours now, and a photo was taken. Okay, so I'll show you guys this photo, and you should identify what is the new thing in this photo. Okay, so. You have seen the photo?
No.
No, it's okay. Just look at the photo, okay? And you guys will see it on your screen, okay? So let's see what is there in this photo. That's don't tell it out, okay? If you find it, don't tell. Okay? You guys have seen it? You've seen it probably, right?
No.
Yeah. Show them the photo.
It's different. Okay, I already saw it, I think.
Yeah, you saw it. Anything different? You saw it, huh? Wait.
Wait, what?
You didn't see it, sir.
Oh my gosh! I didn't see that.
You didn't see that?
So that is one of our setup crews. So we actually wanted him to sit in the center.
Yeah, but you sit too much in the center.
Yeah, if you actually we'll zoom in and show you.
Yeah.
And he's, oh my gosh, look at his face power. Okay. Yeah, so thank you for that, for our setup crew who's behind the scenes and doing a lot of work. All right, so we are into this discussion, and one of the favorite questions is this God's will? Ta-da! Yeah, is this God's will, right? A lot of youngsters ask, is this God's will? Is this God's will? And how to discern God's will, right? What are some other things that you usually hear? It is
Is this the right person?
How will I know?
how will I know? Is the right person?
Is this a perfect match?
Is the perfect match?
Will I
The
get
one
my
made
match
for me.
made in heaven?
Yes, this is a match made in heaven. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a thing like that? All right. So how do we know? How do you discern if it's God's will, right? I think a lot of people want to know if it's God's will because it's a very important decision. So is this the right person? So how do you discern? Is it? Yeah. Let me leave that open to everyone to think and ponder and answer. How do you discern?
Is it easy
Is it easy?
or is it very hard? Like, I think,
Depends on where you are, maybe.
yeah. I think we complicate a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I think about God's will for marriage, it was easy.
Okay.
Like, because it was a journey.
Mm-hmm.
It was not like I was put on spot. God was working in me, and that became very natural. When joy came into my life, at that point, it was a journey of knowing. Okay, this is God's will for me, and it was so easy in spite of all the challenges ahead, and that, like God has revealed His will, and.
I think finding God's will for marriage should not be the only decision you're seeking God's will for.
That's true.
That's a big problem.
Yep.
If you're constantly seeking God's will every day in your life, then I think this will also very naturally follow along.
So an interesting question is what are some places we specifically want God's will? Usually what people are looking for. One is
Career.
marriage, career, okay. What else?
what to study,
what to study, right?
yeah, which college and all that.
Which college? Should I move?
Should I move?
Should I move, right? And sometimes only these decision people are discerning God's will. But discerning God's will, I think, yeah, like you said, it's not about that one choice. It's like an everyday thing.
Yeah.
And then this also becomes like an everyday, one of the everyday decisions that you're making, right? And
I think the bigger question is, what does it look like when it is an everyday thing? So should I, example, I'm going to exaggerate this scenario very much, but okay. I'm getting out in the morning. I think we already talked about this. I'm going to a certain place and I have 10 routes. God, tell me which route I should take. There are 10 ways to go to this place. So is it like in every scenario that I should seek God's will, or is there a scale? Okay, if it's below this level of importance, then I can maybe do it myself. Or if it's like this, okay, then I can do. I should seek God's will for this.
Yeah.
So like, where is the balance? What's the line for someone to understand how to do it?
I think it's a relationship. Like I would describe it as a father-son relationship. Okay, I'm training my son to know what my desires are, and he's tuned to that. For example, yesterday my son tried to cross the road when the vehicles were coming, and I pulled him aside and said, "Don't ever do that." And I hope he understands that. And he's not next time expecting me to tell him or listen to this instruction. Like for example, the example that you took, should you stop and ask which route should I take? If it is a complicated situation, ask. Like once I was coming down a mountain, I didn't know which route was the best. Everything looked complicated. Lord, I trust you, I'm taking this route. Yeah, you do that. But in familiar situations, you don't ask for instructions or ask God to reveal.
yeah,
So I think it's more of the tuning.
Yeah.
You tune yourself to what God wants you to do, and so you listen and you obey. So I think it's a natural process.
Yeah. When you said, about your son, that you listen to your son knows your desire.
Desire.
Or he knows your heart. In the same way, I think if you look at passages in New Testament, it says, doing the will of God, another passage is this is in Ephesians 5:17, it says, understanding what the will of the Lord is. Then First Thessalonians 4:3 says, for this is the will of God. So I think the Lord has given us His will, what His will is and purpose, and how He wants us to follow His heart, His desire for us, even for marriage, right? He's instituted, and we have talked about all these things just before this, right? And He's already told us that, right? He's given us all that, the main things, right? And so the New Testament is often about doing the will of God, understanding the will of God and following the will of God, right? And He's already given that to us. Then He also gives us a freedom. I like this verse every time. That really kept me rooted was Romans chapter 12 verse 1 and 2. It says, this is the pleasing will of God. And before that He says, you test and approve what the will of God is. Yeah. So He's given us the option to test and approve what the will of God is, right? Like for example, you said going to the road, right? Like you have 10 different routes. He's given you the common sense, right? And He's given you the Holy Spirit to discern within yourself, right? And He's asking you to test and approve, right? And sometimes I think we get into the very details, like it has to be this and this and this. It's not so complicated, He's given us the law, we follow according to it, and then He gives us the liberty to test and approve. And when you are doing the test and approve, He will lead you. And if there is a particular way He wants you to go, He will make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Or He will make it real to you. Or even sometimes I pray like this, Lord, if you want any other way, please show it to me. Or if this is not the person, please raise a red flag. Right? If there is a red flag, help me to understand that. Right? Or if this decision is going to be made, and if you think that's not the decision you want me to make, I think it's fine. I think it's according to your will of God, according to your will, and I'm going to obey it. Right? But if there is a red flag, then please raise it. So yeah.
You actively involved when knowing what is good. Like you already know what the revealed will of God is. You actively pursue it.
Yeah.
I think God will lead you
Yeah,
perfectly.
yeah.
And this aspect of in Romans 12:1 and 2, this renewing of mind.
Mind, yeah. Renewing
This
your
is
mind
a constant process.
Yes.
And when you renew a mind, your mind becomes the mind of Christ. And his desires becomes your desires. So that's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, another verse that I really like in this regard is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And then it goes on to say, in all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your path. So, if I'm able to acknowledge him in every thing that I do, if I'm able to, really look for, is this the right thing? Am I really doing this to honor God? Will God be glorified in what I'm doing? In everything in my life, then I think in this also, the Lord will direct your path.
Yeah.
So, he will raise red flags. He will close doors if that is not for you.
Yeah.
And there's another verse in the Bible that says, God doesn't want to hide his will from us. He wants us to know his
Yeah.
will. And he's not a God of chaos and confusion. So, if you are in submission to God and your intentions and your purpose are all in tune with God, automatically, a lot of these things it'll be evident to you that this is how God wants you to move. Right?
Yeah. So actually, in continuation with that, you when you actually think about it, the more closer you are to God,
Yeah.
or you take any person, the closer I am to someone, I know
Yes.
how you are reacting. Okay, you want me to do something like this? Okay, I look at your face. Okay, this is what you mean. But the farther I am from you,
Yeah.
it's harder to tell.
That's
So-
the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
That's usually
That's the initial problem we talked about.
Yeah.
Right? That you don't, you are seeking God's will only for these certain things,
Yes.
right? And it's not an everyday, almost an everyday process. So that's very important. Yeah.
I mean, I want to ask a question based on a scriptural story. Right? Is the story of Isaac and Rebecca an example of God's perfect will?
I mean, is that like the perfect marriage kind of?
Something like that. Would you say that?
I don't know if it's the perfect. I don't know how to define that as perfect or not, because. But one thing I like, again, I told about this, is the process, right? And I feel that is the will of God, right? That the process that they went through, and then I told you that in the middle of the passage, he just shares that story back again. And when that thing happens, the process, and I every time think, why did Rebecca actually say yes?
Yeah.
She's not seen the guy. She's not seen the place.
And she's have to go miles.
Right, and so my when we were discussing, my friend said, no, she saw the gold that the servant.
Well, she's not here, so you can't.
So one of my friends said that, but what I see is that she saw.
I think she heard the story, right?
Yeah, she saw the process. She saw the story. She heard from what land they came. Yeah, the process. Yeah, the leading.
When you say the perfect, is that mean that God has just one person for me that I need to marry?
Yeah, the match
that's a
made
very-
in heaven. Come on.
Yeah.
Is that does God have this idea?
I mean, that fear is real. What if I miss, on that one person? What if, especially when there are 2-3 proposals at the same time, in arranged marriage scenarios, 2-3 proposals at the same time, there is this fear that a lot of young people have gone through, What if I miss out on it?
And another question, right? What if in the two people, one of them feel that, okay, this is God's perfect will, but the other does not?
Boy, you come with some very difficult questions, man.
I think my brother here is in the existential crisis.
He's already being
Pray for
impacted by
Ruben.
this, huh?
Pray for Ruben.
He's listing all the questions that
appreciate that. This is a really genuine question that I want.
Yeah. I think we should probably address that. But this coming back to the question that you talked about, right? Is this 1-to-1, right? This to this and this to this and this to this, right? Actually, it was very interesting. I don't know what you guys believe, but when I was growing, I kind of believed that. And then I was speaking to one of my mentors, and we were talking about this, and he was like, and he had this perspective of how God's will is revealed and he leads us and directs us. Even in our education and in our jobs and all, right? Is really God saying that you have to be this, or is he more bothered about your character, your life, your spiritual life, your testimony, right? Because ultimately anyone you get married to, literally, right? Any marriage you take, the working of it and the is kind of the same, right? You have to work towards love and submission and dealing with differences and expectation, communication and conflict resolution. It's all everyone has it.
Yeah, this is only the premarital part we are talking about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so I don't believe that it's one match you have, and if you miss the match, just imagine this: if one person misses one match, then the
The
problem
whole world is messed up.
Chaos. All
It's so
fire and brimstone.
chaotic, and I don't believe that's what it is. Right?
I think that also, if we believe that there's only one person that is a match for another person, but you get married to, that's like questioning the sovereignty of God.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
So the question arises, so God planned something and I did something to disrupt it.
Yeah.
Am I that powerful?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think God's will is revealed to us, right? And we have to follow God's will and use these guidelines. And really, if God is not wanting you to get into something, He will bring it up. And if you're really dependent on Him, He will bring it up.
I
So
think that's the key.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking in relation to marriage, but in other circumstances where you're looking for the will of God, right? You experience a peace within yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is something that people can look forward to even in the light of marriage, because
Maybe
if
you
you're
guys
at
can
peace,
talk about that. Meaning, like, obviously we have not experienced that peace. So you guys can tell what did that feel like, or
maybe you guys
what
have
did that
been
look
there,
like?
right? You
What
would
did
have
that peace look
prayed
like?
about each other and would have felt a peace within yourself. Right?
I mean, I can talk about, this couple that just got married yesterday. I mean, when they've been, like, the guy especially was very excited about this.
Very excited.
But
Let
I
me
know the girl
emphasize.
has been praying. She was very nervous, in fact. And we were there when they met each other for the first time. And I remember she saying, Akka, I don't want to have to make the decision today. Please, let them see and then go. And then I want to take some time to make the decision, because she was very anxious and nervous about it. But then she was also like, that anxiousness was converted into a lot of prayer. I know a lot of prayer went into it before, she actually met him. And then after they met and, when he left and we were like, she's like, I know this is the one. And she was like, even as we spoke, I was able to feel that peace. And I think it's not just some magical feeling or, it's not just that spark or anything like that. But I think it's just because she was preparing in prayer for so long. When it was the right person, the Lord really, and I think later on when the guy also shared his experience, he said when other proposals came, I didn't feel that peace to even proceed further. This thing, even from the beginning, there was that peace. Not because they were just attracted to each other, by their beauty, or it wasn't just about that. I think God gave them that peace. And
Even I shared my story, right? That I went and saw this girl and I didn't have that peace and things like that, and I had to put my foot down, right, and say this is not what I'm looking for and all that. But when I met Becky, I remember that we had a conversation, and then they had to come on top and say, you know what, because you've been talking for such a long time, like, can you stop?
How long did you guys talk?
We didn't realize how time, and I think it took more than an hour.
Yeah, more than an hour and a half maybe, like, This is our first time we're talking, but we were talking like some friends, like,
And
Yeah.
I was so nervous. I still remember it.
She was very nervous, yeah.
I took
extremely
forever
nervous.
to get out of the room to just come and see them, and my eyes were all filled with tears. And
She didn't give me chai, She didn't give me tea.
I gave him chocolate.
Yeah, I think she was scared.
Did
They
she
were
put
scared that
salt
she will
instead of
shake.
I don't know. You had chai before that. So.
Yeah. So she gave and gave chocolates.
It was interesting. I was so nervous.
So
we went up.
cliche.
My heart was pounding, and we sat. We prayed first. And we started talking. It was like this mental checklist, right? All your boxes are like tick, tick. And towards the end, I'm like, oh no, everything is like becoming green lights for me. Like that was another.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like
Oh no.
Oh no, now to marry.
I cannot say no. Like whatever I asked the Lord.
So you were trapped.
Yeah, not trapped, but it
Yeah,
felt good.
they were talking for a very long time because I remember coming back from school. They were already talking, right?
You went to take bath and they were still talking.
It took a long time for them to
And he went to school the next day.
No, but it was that peace, right? Like that, such great comfort and peace, and knowing that God was like, you could feel the presence of the Lord in that conversation, and it was very interesting how what he thought was what I was thinking, and we've never met each other, we never talked to each other, so I was like, I hope these things happen, and when it happened, I was like, okay. This is interesting.
And it need not be like, that first meeting.
That's
We
true.
got that peace.
Yeah,
It
that's
need not
true.
be that way
That's
for
very true.
everyone.
Yeah.
But it's a journey, and I think, I think for us when we were considering each other, I think it was that process of, multiple conversations where talking about, our convictions, what are our beliefs,
Calling.
what is our calling, and things like that. And then there was a point when it was like, I don't see any reason why.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. I don't
I
see
see
any
a
reason
trend
why.
here.
Why I should not marry you.
Exactly.
That was my proposal.
Have you ever come across a situation where the person said, did not mention about the peace, but it still felt perfect in God's will, or did not talk about peace like you mentioned, and still felt that it was in the perfect will of God? Have you come across any couple like that?
Why wouldn't that person have the peace?
Haven't mentioned like what you mentioned before marriage. They just went with something else.
Because I have heard instances like that too, where maybe at the first meeting they didn't think, but then they made the prayer that God, this is your will, take this forward, and then when they go forward, looking back, they say that you know what, this was the best decision I made.
Yeah, there are situations like that.
The role of mentors over there also, I think, plays an important role, because sometimes you're very anxious, you're very nervous about it, that you're not able to think clearly, or so taking it after that first meeting, going and talking to somebody. I remember talking to my mentors about him. We're from very different backgrounds, so how do you think this will work? Do you think? And then I had them pour wisdom into my life, and then helping me see things through. Yes, there will be challenges, but if this is the Lord's will, the Lord will guide you accordingly. And so talking it with mentors, so I think we're again and again coming back to how you need mentors in your life, not just for don't just find a mentor because you want to get married, but I think you need mentors to help you grow in your spiritual walk. It's very biblical to have mentors.
The peace that you talk about, right? Mentors are important. Also, the peace when you talk about. One thing I often ask is why there's no peace, right? We need to discern that. And one thing that I'd like to mention to everyone, right? We're talking about marriage, but remember, one size does not fit all, right? Each story is different, right? And that's where many times when there can be different situations, and sometimes situation to situation it matters. We're trying to generalize at some level, right? But doesn't mean one size fits all, right? So, like if someone says I didn't have peace, one thing I would ask is why there's no peace, right? Like I want to make sure I want to be sure about this. In fact, I ask this question to a lot of youngsters who are getting married, even just before entering the marriage hall. Like recently this happened. Like someone was getting married, the car came and I opened the window and I said, are you sure about this marriage? If you're not sure, now you can say no.
Did you do that in the wedding yesterday?
No, I asked a couple of days back.
So he was always ready.
He was ready. That's for sure.
Yeah, so
he was too excited though.
So I think he told me probably in his mind he was saying, "Don't be the devil."
Wow. Okay, that much conviction.
If you don't have, like when we say peace, when something is disturbing you, you feel it, you know it, right? And then you probably want to dig deep and find out what is that is hindering you from moving forward. And it could be your imperfections
your own
also.
selfish
Yeah.
desire or
Like, is it my problem or like is it the family or like you will definitely
You need to
have
deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the key here is you want to do God's will, not your own will. That's where the conflict is. Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." So, if you're closely walking with God, your desires becomes God's desires, and when your desires become God's desires, then it's easy for you to know God's will, and you're very tuned. And the peace we are talking
You mean
about
God's desires become your desires?
is God's desires become. I flipped it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So God's desires becomes your desire, and then it becomes very natural, and the peace is just a result of it.
Yeah, I want to also talk about the question that you had asked. Not forgotten it, but I've forgotten the question.
Kind of forgot it, right?
What if they use it as a trap? As
Yes.
in, this is, I feel God's, this is God's
I
will.
got a prophecy.
But
That's,
I got a vision.
God showed it in my dream.
Yeah,
no, but let's not joke about it. There are people like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had people who come and say, you know what, this guy came and told me that God revealed to them that she's the girl, and now we both have to get married. I don't have convictions about it, but right, what should we do?
What should we do?
Like in a situation like
What
that.
would you do?
What would you do? Let's see. What would you do?
Oh wow.
If a girl comes and says, "I saw your face in a
The Lord
dream."
showed me in my dream that you will wear a blue shirt.
Yeah, and
But
I
you would
want
And you
wear a
wore a
blue
blue
shirt.
shirt in my
And
I'll
you
look
are the
around
guy.
if there's any other blue shirt first.
No, the problem is when someone comes and tells you, immediately your emotions,
Yeah,
it
that's true.
flips, and then
Yeah,
you'll be
that's
like, oh,
I can imagine that.
and then you will actually think in another way. Like you're not thinking, oh, is this God's will? You're not gonna
I
think
wouldn't
that.
base that. I wouldn't act on anything based on their dreams. I think first, again, the foundation is the scripture, and maybe actually, if someone comes and tells that to me, that's like an instant red flag. To be very honest, but I think I would be even more cautious. I would start. I'll maybe take it to my mentors, evaluate this whole thing. But if someone comes up to me, I'll be like, okay, pray about it. I'll also pray about it, and I'll get back to you. Kind of. I'll just leave it
Basically,
there.
both of them have to be convicted of it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street, right? So both of them have to.
Yeah, it requires a lot of patience. You're not in a hurry, but oh yeah, like people are in a hurry.
I think at that time when you're just that emotion makes you want to rush it.
Yeah.
So that's also the thing.
Yeah, it can be a trap. I think we have to be very careful of that trap. People can trap you in this also.
I think there's this fear of what if I say no to this and what if I don't get any better proposal.
What if I miss this match
Yeah.
made in heaven?
I think we touched this previously when you said about waiting, right? Even here you can wait. You don't have to rush
Rush it,
into
yeah.
it.
If you don't feel the peace, you can wait.
You can be like,
Right.
I need some more time to pray about this. Before I say yes or no.
To know God's will, you require a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be
Instant.
Yeah. We want God to instantly show.
Yeah.
You patiently wait. God will reveal it.
And with our culture and tradition, like some people are abroad, we try to look, okay, this is holiday season, people are going to come. Try to get married within the season. It's a lot of pressure actually. And you're like trying to find a spouse like so fast.
Yeah.
And sometimes people
I can
make
imagine.
mistakes
Yeah, that
when
makes
you do that. Like we talked before, right? It's not like a career change. Once you get married, it's a commitment that you're making before God and among yourself. So you want to stick into it. So it's okay to wait. And to convince your parents or whoever family members, like, I want to get into this prayerfully and like, be very careful of what I'm going to do. So give me some time.
There was this question on the back of my head. This might not
Again,
be.
is coming some questions.
A lot of questions is coming in this session. No,
I mean, I
Good
was
that you
planning
are
to
taking good
raise
requests.
questions, but I
Yeah,
had-
sure.
Yeah, please ask.
I mean, this not completely directly related to this topic, but we are talking about God's will and waiting, and I'm taken back to the story that she shared about an unbeliever, right? And just imagining a situation where it's the people who are willing to get married understands that it's God's will, right? But one of them is a new believer, and they're willing to get married. But on the other side, they are a strong believer coming from a very strong background, who has very
Heritage.
Yeah.
and the parents are not willing to let them get married to the new believer because they're new in faith and their parents are probably non-believers. So this question has been there on the back of my head, so I just wanted to
I
bring
just
it
want to
up.
add to that actually. What about the family of the spouse? Is that a factor when you like consider?
Should they be believers?
Yeah, no,
what the
it's not. It's not only about should they be believers. It can be anything. Do they have?
Do they have this?
a
Are they in
habit?
the same?
Do they have this?
social-
Do
What
they
if
have
they
a
have?
perfect marriage?
Yeah.
Or
Can I
because there
marry-
are messed up homes.
Yeah,
That's
if the parents are divorced.
Yeah. What do you do in that case?
Yeah.
So
I
know
think
it's like
one
that.
thing that I've noticed is new believers are much stronger than
That's true.
believers who are coming from
Oh, that's
many
not
years
debatable at all,
and
actually.
generations. So, but we often overlook that fact, and we be like, no, we want someone who has like been in this faith for many years. But I think if that person has genuinely come out and trusted God, why not allow your child or like your son or your daughter to get married to them?
Yeah, I think that should be encouraged. I think because of that also, a lot of new believers are not getting proposals, right? And I've
We
had
know
some,
families.
some one or two friends of mine who are new believers and they did not get spouses, and some of them did get, some of them did not get, and they ended up getting married to someone in their own, own religion because it was too much of pressure. So it's a I think we should encourage more youngsters, and if you are led, like if you are listening to this and if you're led to get married to someone who is a new believer, I know some youngsters like that who were like that, and they did it, like and that was not a prerequisite, but they had that in the back of their mind, and at the right time the Lord brought the right person, so should I get married to someone who is a new believer, right? And I think that's a good thing to consider, right? She's a believer, right? And she also deserves a chance, or he also deserves a chance, right? The family might not be perfect, like you said, a lot of things. But again, when you bring all these iterations, it's not one size fits all, okay? So we have to
be discerning.
just now, because in the podcast I heard I have to believe I get married to a new believer.
Don't put us on the spot, please.
Don't go home and fight with your parents like, no, I want a new believer. Now whatever you say.
Godly Bhai told that in that podcast.
So one size does not fit all. You need to see the different things. You need to talk, process. All these things happen, and see where the Lord is leading, and I think that's very important. And if you're struggling with any of these things, I encourage you to please get in touch with us. You need help. Please get in touch with us. And so we're talking about discerning God's will. Actually, we have another whole series on discerning God's will. Forgot to subscribe. This is the problem.
See, if you have subscribed and checked out the channel.
If you watch the promo to that,
Yeah, you'll see someone here.
you'll see the most
Unless that
eligible
video
guy.
ഡാ ഇങ്ങോട്ട് നോക്കടാ ക്യാമറ റോളിംഗ് മ്യൂസിക്
A very eligible bachelor.
God, what is your way? God, show me a way. Let's go.
So I encourage that. That's a really, I really like that video for myself, and I refer it myself, Discerning God's Will by Sam K. John, brother Sam K. John. So it's a very well thought topic that he's putting it, to all things consideration. So if you want to really know more about this, please watch that video. We'll probably put it up in the link in the YouTube channel also. But yeah, don't omit God's will. I think that's very, very important. And I think that's about it for this discussion. And we don't know if we'll have another discussion, but it was good so far. and we really enjoyed it. We want to talk about boundaries, right? Premarital boundaries. What are some boundaries that couples can keep during these times?
I think the most obvious one is sexual purity, right?
Sexual purity.
Once you tend to start liking someone, there's a tendency to overshare. Right? Is there something that you're not supposed to
withhold?
I am.
With my fiance itself, I've crossed the boundary.
Yeah.
And we are now awaiting our wedding day.
Yeah.